Welcome to the Branding PR Podcast, where we dive deep into the stories and strategies of today's most impactful entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals. Whether you're building your brand, scaling your business, or just looking for inspiration, you're in the right place. Now, this is awesome. Okay, Courtney, I am so excited that we are finally doing this.
No, seriously.
I told you about this months ago when we first met. That, I'm thinking about this podcast thing, and I haven't put everything to, but it's in my mind. Yes. I just need to put pen to paper and actually make this happen.
Yes.
And now it's finally here, and you're my first guest. I'm so excited. Yes. It's so excited, and it's so overdue, but actually, no, don't even say overdue. It's when it needed to be.
Exactly.
In this moment and in the present, right? And I'm just so excited to be able to talk to you and just having this friendship that's developed between us.
My God, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Like, guys, we were literally just talking about Gullah Gullah Island, Cousin Skeeter, all of the main
stand up. Millennials, stand up.
Millennials, this is for you, okay? This is for you. This is for you in my terrible Usher voice. We had just such an incredible childhood.
Yeah, we did.
We have just great 20s, great 30s. And so millennials, we just, our experiences are, I feel like, just shaped who we are today. But it's stuff that you look back and you're just like, man, like we had a time. It was a time to be had.
We had a time out in these streets, as the children call it.
Yes.
Out in these streets, we were in the streets. Literally, actually, like touching grass, actual grass and dirt and all of that as children. So
right. Went outside and touched some grass. Oh, look at that! That's the sky. I love it, and I love you so much, and I'm just excited.
Oh, I'm so excited for this conversation.
Absolutely. So I just want to deep dive into this and really just kick this off.
Sure.
And one of the things that attracted me to your profile, to your bio, to your Google Courtney, like you will see what I'm talking about. My eyes literally lit up and I was like, oh my gosh. First of all, a fellow PR girly. Second of all, grew up in the same era as me. So we can speak the same language. You remember typewriters. You remember having to fax. You remember.
People will always be the dial up when you wanted to connect to the internet.
Gosh. Like, it was a time. Really, you remember all of these things.
All of these things.
It almost felt like, are we just in this small little bubble in this category? Like, no, none of the PR girlies experience. Like, where are those girlies at?
Where are they? Let's talk to them. I want to have a conversation with them. What did you do? What did you do as a child?
What did you do? Oh, I got questions because I feel like we all have that. That was our boot camp. Okay, that was our boot camp into PR and having to do everything so manually.
Oh my god!
Like, relationships. It wasn't just email. You got to go up there. Hey, or events. Going to events to scout for different things. Yes. And some of the newer girlies are just like, oh, we don't. Why didn't you just send them an email? It's like, I need to build a relationship.
I use AI to actually do all of it. What's
okay?
AI was a movie with Haley Joel Osment, if memory serves me correctly, that came out in the 90s or early 2000s. So we didn't really have that as a reality back then. And when I started 15 years ago, there was only Facebook and Twitter. But even more before that, does anyone remember MySpace? Actual MySpace. Not I heard about it or I read about it in a book. No. Actually, who was in your top 8? How were they positioned in your top 8? What did you do with them? And, even deeper, do you still talk to them now?
And that's another story right there. Do you even still talk to them? Because the way we ranked our friends,
my God,
were brutal. We were brutal. The way we ranked people.
It was that and the song choice.
That made an impact, though.
It sure did.
It did make an impact. It set the tone for your page, your customization, the coding that we did.
The coding. To actually have your background. Girl, we could talk about that all
We
day.
could talk about that all
I'm just
day.
like just that alone. But
But you
yes.
know what? Just the
Mhm.
fact that you remember all of these things
Oh
and
yeah.
then cut to now in all of your 15, 20 years of experience
Oh my God.
navigating social media, becoming the strategist and expert that you are today. It's like I feel like you need your own coffee table book, and maybe I'm giving you a potential product idea that you could sell because I would buy it. Because I want to know everything from your eyes and your experiences. What was that like seeing it as the progression happened and having to strategize for
Yeah.
these top national brands that you work for, having to strategize and seeing it from the very beginning and just developing each time. So
Yeah.
how do you feel like how did you really get your start into PR and into the social digital media aspect of it?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I actually was very fortunate. I started off working for a e-commerce company called eFashion Solutions. Shout out to my eFashion Solutions friends who are probably
Mm,
going to see this. We were a very scrappy, hungry bunch of folks that we were just kind of just learning on the fly. And when I actually started there, I was doing email marketing
mm.
and I hated it. Sorry, coders and those who actually have an affinity and love for email marketing. That was not my jam, like not even a little bit. But
Fair.
I also was exposed to Facebook and Twitter from a business perspective because that was all that existed. There was no Instagram,
Mhm.
Snapchat, like those are just two separate words that maybe somebody put together in a sentence. There was no TikTok. You mean TikTok like the clock, like the pendulum? Like that's all there was, nothing else.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because you got to see how people engaged with posts, but it wasn't as much of a benchmark as what your follower count was. So if you had
Mm,
more followers on a certain page, it was very much so oh, I have 20,000. Oh my God, you got 20,000 followers. It's so cool. And
mhm.
so while I was at eFashion Solutions, just to kind of preface, they did end-to-end management. So buying, planning, marketing, retouching, photography, warehouse logistics solutions for a lot of urban old school brands. So brands like Fat Farm, Sean John, Baby Fat, Darion, Orange County Choppers, Playboy, you name it, they did it. They had about over 20 brands at their helm.
Oh wow.
And so it was
Yep.
really interesting seeing how all of these entities really kind of coexisted in this space, and how we were really able to have some pretty cool ideas and campaigns being pushed forward. And unfortunately, they went out of business.
Mhm.
But then from there, I did some contract work and I went to Toys R Us. And imagine, as we're talking about our childhood, imagine just for
Yes,
1 second,
go to
right?
kid.
That you are a 8-year-old begging your parents or
Mm,
your grandparents to take you to Toys R Us because The Simpsons came out on Nintendo and you really want to get it, or you have your Sega Genesis and you want to play the latest game on there, or maybe you just want to walk around, because those were our halls of joy. Those were the things, right? Then
yeah.
fast forward to being in your 20s and working at the very place that you loved so much. And it was absolutely incredible. I was so happy to be there. I was doing a little bit of mobile, a little bit of social, and it was so cool just being in those halls and absorbing Jeffrey. And yes, fun fact, Jeffrey
Mm.
actually did come out. They would have him come to different events. They would have their Christmas party was incredible. They would have Jeffrey come out. They'd have cookies and they'd do crazy giveaways, trampolines and the Power
Yes.
Wheels cars, all that. Anyway, but while I was there, we were really honed in on what we could do to try and push the envelope. And
Yeah.
senior leadership was very much so here for it.
Mm.
I would say that they were very open. We actually did Twitter chats on Babies R Us with moms. So
Mm.
it was just a nice ecosystem for moms to come for an hour, and maybe it's you're expecting to, hey, I'm a new mom, but I don't know about these diapers, or I don't know about this cream or this and that you would in real time have people say, oh, try this. Then you can interweave the product that is
Mhm.
at Babies R Us and put that into the Twitter chat.
Mm.
So it was such an awesome time being there and seeing how that evolution of real time community management, even if you didn't want to call it community management, or maybe you called it customer service, again, this was back in 2013, that this
Yeah.
was such a beautiful way to have a very organic and very easy conversation. That was something that was really important, was harnessing the power of how can we have authentic and real-time conversations with women who are going through the same thing, that they're either new to parenthood or maybe they have their second or third child, but still it's being
Mhm.
able to be a beacon of source for these individuals, which was so beautiful to be a part of. Then I went over to a kitchen and bath cabinetry company. I should also preface I've literally done a little bit of everything. Then
Which I love, which
I
I
went,
love, by the way.
thank you. I went over to a company called Fabawood. Shout out to my Fabawood people. And
Mm.
I was doing a little bit of PR and a little bit of social media. And that was when I was able to introduce and um, turn uh, turn them on to doing influencer work with a couple of really stand-up individuals, Kate Rumson, and who is the voice behind the Real Houses of Instagram. And she was one of the top home space influencers. At the time, I think she had about 300,000 followers when I first started working with her. And now she's got like 2.3, 2.4 million followers, and she's and growing
Wow.
and counting. And so
Goodness
being able
gracious.
to have a longer lead campaign and not just a one-off, which spoiler alert, it's actually better to have longer lead campaigns, which we'll get to a little bit later,
Mhm.
as opposed to just one-off campaigns where it's just more transactional, having an entity just say, I will post this, you pay me this, and then we're done. It's better to have a longer lead because then you're able to build that association in with the influencer's audience, which is something that you're coming to them to have a mainstay with them anyway. And working with her to really hone in on what it was that we were doing with our cabinetry line. And we were
Yeah.
able to just very seamlessly within her feed put in a couple of posts about our kitchens and what we've done. And then we invited her to a kitchen and bath showcase. It's called KBIS. It happens in Vegas every year. We invited her, did a couple of Instagram lives with her to talk about, to really emphasize the product lines, new and existing, and to have her really showcase it to her audience. And the growth that we experienced just by working with her was exponential. I'm not going to give any numbers, but it was pretty darn great. And
Yeah.
that I think was um, it was a very interesting challenge that we were able
Yeah.
to accept, and to be able to broadcast what it was that Fabo was able to do was amazing. And then from there, I went to Plymouth Rock Assurance, which, as a Jersey girl, this is a regionally based insurance, home and auto insurance carrier. And we were doing a lot of fantastic work with partnerships with the New Jersey Devils,
Mm.
Prudential Center, I was called Prudential Center, sorry. Yankee Stadium, obviously everybody knows the Yankees, among other sports franchise and their
Yeah.
subsequent stadiums, and really being able to bring these programs. The program was if you had an extra $20, depending on the program, added onto your policy, you would be able to get a an exclusive discounts for tickets to shows, tickets for any sporting events, exclusive events that we threw only for Plymouth Rock customers, that we were able to harness all of the great things with those programs and push that on social and really amplify that with the entities that we were working with, which was so cool. And then I went over to an agency, and it's
Yeah.
called ICUC, and I love my ICUC family. I went over to them, and I had one client, and I only needed one. It was
Yeah.
JP
Yeah.
Morgan Chase Asset and Wealth Management.
Oh. That's a big one client, okay? That's
Yeah.
like dozens in one.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, yes, yes.
Be for real, yes.
It was very, and I learned a
Yeah.
lot, and being in the belly of the beast, it was very mind blowing, and I learned so much and was able to grow so much as a strategist and really
Yeah.
do more with thought leadership, helping with
Mhm,
that. The organic and some a little bit of paid social from that perspective to
mhm,
be able to talk about things that from a regulatory standpoint you have to be very regimented and very prescriptive with the copy and
mhm,
how you write it. So one of the things
mhm.
that I did, I actually made a very conscious effort to become friends with the compliance department because
Nice.
you
Smart.
need to, if you need to ask a quick question, being able to ask them things that, hey, can I talk about this? No, you really can't say it like this, but if you phrase it like this, you can say this. When you push something out on social media that
Yes.
is from a finance perspective, your content almost
Mm,
immediately goes stale. So you have
ah,
to be
yeah.
very prescriptive with how you talk about whatever language you're saying. So that way, when an asset manager, they're going to be the ones relaying this information, whether it's to another organization under their belt, you or I, for a wealth manager to do the same thing. That, let's say, for instance, that there's a post from a month ago, they're able to really harness or say, oh, this was a data point from a month ago. While that article might have data points that aren't as relevant anymore, your actual post and subsequent language and how you pushed it out there, that can be very accurate. And you have to not mislead people. There's a lot that goes into that. And that I
Yeah.
literally could just talk about JP Morgan and all of that in another session because that was
Yeah.
a huge, huge learning lesson. But
Mhm.
there were also things being in that space that made it a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What was interesting, I was there when the pandemic started
Goodness gracious.
and the markets weren't doing all that great at that point in time.
Speaking of what a time, what that was a oh
What a time.
goodness gracious. It doesn't even feel like 4 years ago. It feels like
Isn't that wild?
centuries. But in
Isn't
it,
that,
when we were in it, it felt like longer. Like
yes,
it's
yes,
weird. It's really
yes.
weird.
To
But it
be
was such
so
a time.
siloed off and not go anywhere and not
Yeah.
see anybody, or you had your pods of people, or
Mhm.
my personal favorite, why it was toilet paper and tissues. Those were the things you couldn't find. Those were the things that you all bought. Sorry. Anyway, sorry.
Depending on your area, girl, you couldn't find cheese either. And I'm like, what are y'all doing with all this cheese? Because you're gonna need that toilet paper. Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Or maybe not.
Or maybe not.
Oh my god. It was very, very
Yeah.
interesting times to say the least. And
But
so
with all of those though,
yeah,
I'm kind of curious from you. What do you feel like was your breakthrough moment in all of those experiences? Like what was that moment that was like, okay, we're getting through here.
I think, well, for JP Morgan, very multi-tiered. It
Yeah.
was once
Yeah.
the markets kind of calm down and you're really seeing a cooling from either the stock market or from the Fed or what have you, that once we were able to kind of get a grasp on what was COVID, what is this doing? How is this affecting us? How are our lives impacted? And I'm not just talking on a national stage, I'm talking globally
Oof.
because
Wow.
I wasn't just doing work
Yeah.
just in North America. I was global. I was doing things. I was talking to my teammates in LATAM, in APAC. I was talking and having these very real conversations and how things were being published and what did that look like.
Mhm.
You had to be very wary and very conscious about language and how it was being described in those different regions, because what you might publish in the Nordics is very different from what needs to be published in APAC, what needs to be published in Latin America to North America. It's very specific. So being
Mhm.
able to have those very real conversations and then convert that into language that can be used for social media was
Mhm.
something that you had to really learn very quickly, especially during that environment.
Oh wow, wow. That when you spoke about the fact that finance, there's so much more to content development there. You don't just get to put anything out. Like there has to go
No,
through quality assurance, compliance. There's so many more facets. I've heard insurance people say the same thing. It's like we can't just post and just promote like every other business. Like we have
no,
a really strict set of rules on what we can share and how it's supposed to be presented
100% yes.
to meet that compliance. So yeah, that just sounds like in and of itself, that was a lot of learning lessons within it, but
Yes,
also just kind of shows how adaptable and so strategic that you are because you were able to take that and not only learn from it, but also like, okay, so I and this is just what I'm this is how I talk. You were able to turn around, flip it in, reverse it, girl. That's what I'm
yes,
trying to say. Like you were able to make it into something where it could have really just been that type of content where it's almost so professional in tone. It's not related. You get where I'm going? Like that
yes, of
corporate
course.
that we're back in the 80s and 90s. I saw it very consistently. It was very the corporate speak where it was just so
Yes,
unrelatable, very
yeah,
bland. It just
yes.
needed a little bit of salt. It was kind of like those things,
Yes, you need some
right?
season. You need some
And you could have just honestly just in taking the position, you could have inherited that and just keep recycling that old crap. But you said, no, we're gonna make this into something. We're gonna follow compliance. But that's why I'm
yes,
gonna make it a point to have relationships with them so I can understand how they think. So then
yes,
when I understand how they think, now I can create content that's consistent, but
100%.
also still capturing people's interest because that's the goal. Why are we writing if not for that? Why are we developing this if not to engage people?
Exactly, exactly. And it was also trying new formats to see how would content resonate. We all know that video content is king. We all
Yes.
know that's the thing that's going to stop the scroll. But there have to be other formats, and I'm really the platform that really resonated with just everybody as a whole was LinkedIn. So how is it that on that platform, and for those that are younger that are either want to start out in social or maybe just a little bit new to just the whole space, every single platform has different parameters, and every single platform performs very differently. Where if for let's say for instance for LinkedIn,
Mhm.
one of the things that we tested and found that there was a large amount of success with it was actually putting PDFs onto LinkedIn once they actually enable the capability of doing so. So I would not suggest doing that for Facebook because that's not what Facebook is for. And
Oh,
I wouldn't recommend doing that on Instagram because, again, that's not what it's for.
yep.
But having a PDF, putting it onto LinkedIn and seeing how it performs, that worked very well. And it was something that was very grab and go because you can also download it off of the platform, which was great for our asset and wealth managers to be able to take that information and to convey that over to whoever it was that they were talking to if they needed to, or they could just pull it up on their phone and then scroll down to the post and actually pull it up that way. So being
Yeah.
able to test and learn where it might not seem like it's a big deal to put a PDF onto LinkedIn, there's a lot more buy-in than what you would
Mhm.
think, especially when you're testing something like that. It's taking those moments and having the opportunity to have someone say yes and have
Yeah.
someone actually, in this case, a lot of somebody's, actually say, this is, we want to give this a green light. Let's see. We could say we tested it. And if it doesn't work, then we can move on to something else, which is really what, at its core, what marketing is all about, right? It's when you
Yes.
want to try something new, it's about understanding, I want to test this. I've seen success in other verticals that are not even in the same industry, but I think we can make it work for us. And here's how. And that's part of the secret sauce is saying, I want to be able to take these things and test it and see if it works. And if it doesn't, again, we can say we did it. If it does work, take that data and then refine that even more to see what additional successes you could do. A B test
Mm.
things, see what works, see what doesn't work when you're in the paid space. A/B test ads, verbiage, everything. See what actually is going to resonate with your audience because you can in real time tell what's working versus what's not. and being able to demonstrate that is something that for myself, I love being able to do that because I want to be
Yeah.
able to see how we could push boundaries.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that so much. And you know what? That's, to me, that's kind of goes back to some of our earlier conversations of just, not only being adaptable, but addressing those challenges head
Oh,
on and
yes.
finding ways to combat it and deal with it, really. And one thing that I definitely wanted to talk to you about is just being a Black woman
Hmm.
in the PR space, a Black PR professional, a Black PR woman professional,
Hmm.
however, which way we want to jumble it.
Hmm.
But the experience is so different.
Oh
The
yeah.
experience is so different. And, speaking to my sisters, speaking to other women of color, and just getting so much of the same song and dance, the same or very similar stories
Oh
is
my
to
God.
me in 2024 so crazy, right? To hear that we've all kind of gone through those similar setbacks and those similar challenges. So I want to hear from you just, you know, what advice would you give
Hmm.
to that young Black professional that's looking into the world of PR and digital marketing? And really, we could expand that even further because
Oh
we're
sure.
speaking from our experience. But
Yes.
I've noticed that definitely other women of color have kind of similar stories that they
Yeah.
share even with me. And I'm sure, you may have had the same thing, but what advice would you give them in getting into this space?
Oh my gosh. Um, I think part of it, especially now, is that you have to prove your worth. But how do you
Mm,
do that as not just as a Black woman, but just as someone that's a professional, right? Whether in some cases it's you starting and branding yourself, you starting out and actually becoming an influencer. And I'm not saying that becoming a content creator or an influencer is the way,
mhm,
but that is when you have yourself and your own data points to showcase what works and what doesn't work. You
mhm.
can use that as a parlay to work for a brand, to work
Mm,
for an entity, and to use that as a way to get your foot in the door. Now, what I will preface though is when you do make that pivot, it's different from when you're branding yourself versus branding a brand, because a brand
mm.
is going to look at you and say, well, you were able to do this for yourself. Is there a way that you can make this work for us? And you have to figure out how to turn that, what you have done for you, into
Yeah.
how you can do it for a company, for an organization, for a firm. And a lot of it is doing research. A lot of it is using the data of yourself, Googling and saying, all right, I want to go and I'm just throwing it out there. I want to do influencer for
Yeah.
Apple. I want to do social media for I want to do it for MAC Cosmetics. I want to go down that road. They I would say, depending on the industry, they're going to be more amenable to looking at you because maybe they see what you're doing. Maybe you've done a brand partnership with
Mhm.
MAC Cosmetics, or you've done something with La Mer, or you're a travel influencer that has done something with United Airlines. And once you're able to take that relationship and turn that into, I know that there is a market for me doing this exclusively for you.
Mm.
Let me show you how I can do it. Don't be afraid to take a chance. You do not know how many people, they either get scared
Yeah.
or you become your own worst enemy and not wanting to put yourself out there or being able to really demonstrate what your worth is.
Yeah.
Know your worth.
Mm.
Understand that when you are in this space, that people are going to look up to you. People are going to want to know, how do you do what you do? How
Yeah.
are you able to parlay that? I've seen influencers where maybe they love a specific hair care product and they're able to parlay that relationship into exclusively working for the brand. And then you see entities where they come up with their own product line. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that's for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying that there are avenues of you being
Mhm.
able to do that in corporate America. I will also say that don't be afraid of you. It's
Mm,
easy to get in your own way, and it's easy to block your own blessings. It's hard to say, don't let that happen, but
mm,
don't let that happen. Don't block your own blessings. You have to get out of your own head. You have to be able to really advocate for yourself and to know that as you are doing things, there are going to be people that are going to say, that's silly. There's so many people, and social's been around for what, 20 years
yeah,
now?
yeah.
There are still people out there that will say social media is not a full-time position. That is not something I can see as a career choice. That is
Mm-mm.
not something that I can see as you being lucrative in this realm. Take a look at your favorite influencers. Who are those people that make you stop what you're doing, stop looking incessantly on Instagram, that stop you in your moment to actually convey a message to you, to throw an advertisement out at you, to talk to you, even if it's just for 1 second? Those people, they took a chance. They got out of their own way. They were able to do it. And I'm talking about Black content creators, by the way. I'm talking about
Hello.
everybody, but I'm talking about Black content creators.
Yes, yes.
They were the ones who took the chance to do it, and they did it for themselves. And you look at them and you look at that and think maybe that's aspirational content. You could be that aspirational content too.
I feel like that was such a mic drop moment. I'm just like listening to you like, yes, when does the book come out? I had to do that knee slap. When does that book come out? Yes, yes, because you're just giving me life right now. But you know what? That's something that I feel like whatever level that you're in this space, whether you're just getting started or you've been in this space for some time, you
Yeah.
can take what you just said and really apply that to the now. You got
Yeah.
to start somewhere.
Yes.
And people always think it's like, oh, well, no, it couldn't be me. Well, if you're going to think that way, then maybe it's not you. You
No.
have to get out of your own head. And it is very much a mindset thing because you can be
100%.
trapped
100%.
in your mindset
Yes.
depending on what that is. So let it be something positive. Let it be something that is affirmative. Let it be something that is going to push you forward and move that needle so you're hitting those next steps that you're hoping to achieve. I
Yes.
feel like we need a part two. So I will be
I'm
getting
here
on your
for it.
calendar
I'm here
again.
for
I
it.
will be getting on your calendar again.
That's
Yes,
fine.
yes, that's
That's fine.
coming.
That's fine.
Because this was just so great,
I
and
love
I
him.
just appreciate you so much.
I
Like
appreciate
I
you.
look at you as such an inspiration, and someone that can really impact others in a really positive way. And you span so many different backgrounds, so many different industries, so many different spaces, and I feel like people can just relate to so many things that you're sharing
Yeah.
and feel like, you know what, like I could do that. I could, it's just like first I need to get my mindset, but I could do that. I could try
Yeah.
this. And if it doesn't work, okay,
That's
look
okay.
at the other option. That's okay. I could try something different. But the fact is that it's something that is attainable.
Oh, very much
And
so.
I feel like you are just again such an inspiration and someone that I truly admire. So I definitely appreciate you so much for your time.
Oh my gosh,
Getting to
yes.
talk to you. And yes, part two is coming. I am
Which
going to
is
be in
coming.
your or in your inbox, your DMs. I'm gonna be all up in there, girl,
I
because
got,
I feel
I
like
got,
we have so much more to
I
talk
got
about.
you.
But
I
this
got
was
you.
just so great. This
I
was
got
so
you.
great. And
Thank
thank
you
you so
so
much,
much for
Courtney.
thank you for having me. Are you kidding me? I love doing this sort of stuff. And there's a whole heck of a lot more to my story that I am very willing to share. So
I love it. I love
always
it.
happy to do it.
Well, we're definitely going to do this again. And
Perfect.
before we jump, what is a good contact? Where can people reach out or connect with you on social
Yeah,
or your
yeah, yeah,
site?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Connect with me on LinkedIn. My link is going to be. I know that you're probably going to put it out, but
Yes.
it's Courtney M. But we will absolutely make
Perfect.
sure that if you want to connect with me, connect with me. If you want to ask me questions, ask me anything. I'm very much so an open book, and I want to make sure that I'm educating people as much as what I can.
I love it. And you are amazing. So thank you
So are
so
you.
much, Courtney. And
Thank
yes,
you.
we're going to link up again soon. Thank you, girl.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thank you.